So we ready for today's topic?
Let's go.
I'm excited about this one because I think we've probably all lived this to a certain degree. And just simply put, men, you need to get the fuck out of your own way.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of dudes out there, and I'm hearing more and more and more stories as we do the podcast, but things come up to us and people have conversations with us. And, I was recently made aware of a few different people, let's say, that we just get in our way of our success, and we hold ourselves back. We don't see around the corner in our personal lives. We don't think. We get so caught up in day to day, and we just really, really shoot ourselves in the foot would be a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And we're ultimately setting ourselves up for failure. And then when the failure happens, we're like, what happened? Like, how did that? Like, why did that even occur? Like, what did I do?
I mean, we talk a lot about accountability, and this falls right in that line. I mean, there's we've said before, like, nothing will hold you back as much as friends and family, So friends and family there's no one there who will kind of crush a dream as quickly as the people closest to you. Mm-hmm. In some sense, they're trying to protect you. In other senses, that it's the fear that you may do something that they're not willing to go do, or they're too scared or too lazy to go do, which is fine. But ultimately, your choices rely on you. And
I think something parents do, by the way, is they have a tendency because they've lived the life before you and they've failed in places. So I think specifically around investing, they'll say, oh, I don't want you to do that because I did that and I failed. So I'm protecting you. I'm looking out for what's best for you.
Yeah, in one sense, I'd say yes. In another sense, it's also... sometimes it's got nothing to do with their own experience. Sometimes you're trying to do something that's so far out of their wheelhouse that they don't really know how to interact with it. But I think ultimately what happens is, regardless of which path you take, and the people that stand in your way, and realistically no one stands in your way. They only stand in your way if you listen to them, and if you're listening to them, you're actually standing in your own way. Which falls to where you're saying, right? But generally, there's a benefit. Sorry, there's a benefit in. And I know this sounds weird, right? So I want to become a better human being. I want to get into shape. I want to be more spiritual. I want to have a strong mental attitude. I want to be better around people. I want to be better in social interaction. We're talking about all the betters. And a lot of the times, you'd question why people don't. It's, you walk down the street and you see the person who's overweight and go, well, why don't you just eat less and train more? It sounds simple. It does sound simple, but, a good nugget of I wouldn't say inspiration, but a good nugget of kind of being more intuitive is there's benefit in not taking the steps, right? So in one sense, easier. I wouldn't say it's easier, right? You say this often, like, choose your heart. Mm-hmm. It may be easier now, and yes, I agree with you, but it's going to be
maybe comfortable. I've got to change, and that's uncomfortable. So it's more comfortable for me to stay.
I'd go even a step further, right? Because that's initiating to someone that may not realize or may not be at the point that they want to change. We're talking about someone who knows they need to change, understands they need to change, knows what to do to need to change, knows what work has to go, and then still kind of holds back. So it's one step forward, right? And when you get there and you're holding back, you have to ask those whys, right? The 7 whys, and you keep asking why, because every time it'll be a different answer, and eventually you get to the real answer. And the real answer is, it could be fear, right? It could be, and mostly when I say fear, it's the fear of the pain to come. That's the one that kind of resonates with me, because I think back to a lot of things that I've done, and I had to switch my mindset as I kept doing them, because I'd do something and it'd be grossly uncomfortable. I would fail at it. I'd struggle with it. I'd spend a lot of hours doing it. I'd get this pain that just drives up in the back of my head, and it used to be super uncomfortable. And when I was really young, I'd like kind of fluctuated away from it. And then I realized that feeling is good, because that feeling means that I'm getting there. Don't quit, just keep going, right? And then eventually I switched my mindset to realize that the uncomfortable is growth, and the growth is the outcome. The hard now is the easy later, right? But I'm saying that in things that I've done, but there's still things that I'll procrastinate on because I know they're gonna hurt. Right? I know the pain's coming. If I know what I have to do to get there. I know what the mechanisms are. I know how to do it. I know what I got to do. I know how. And this should resonate with everybody, because if you're at that point, I got to sort out my nutrition.
Yeah.
You know that you got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You know that you have to start doing something physical. You know that you're going to have to get up and you have to do your affirmations. You're going to do your meditation. You're going to ground. You're going to do those things that are going to be positive. They will sound great, but you actually have to do them. And why would you not go do them if you know, right? And this is, you and me have done this, and I'm sure everybody listening to this has procrastinated on those changes, because those changes will take you out of a comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Now, comfort zone is not a good thing. It just means if you're comfortable, it generally means that everything's good, or you're at least okay with how it's running.
Yeah.
But comfortable also means that you're stagnant.
Yeah.
Right. You're stuck in one place.
Yeah.
And I truly believe, from my perspective, and I think you would agree with me on this, is you always need to be finding somewhere you can grow. It might not be in the same place.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But you have to challenge yourself to grow somewhere, intellectually, physically, mentally, emotionally. It doesn't really matter, but you've got to find it.
Comfort is a bad thing.
Yes, I agree.
And anytime you find yourself in that place where, like, man, life's pretty good, it's pretty comfortable right now, I got things going on, that's where you're in a bad spot.
That's the sad part, though, is sometimes it's not even a good place. Sometimes you even realize you're in a bad place.
Oh, for sure.
You know you're not in a good place, but there's a comfort in knowing what you know.
I use an example where I think sometimes comfort's instinctive. Okay, so
Yeah, I'd
back
agree with
when
that.
I was in the corporate world, honestly, even before, like, even when I left the corporate world, I was still not quite. It was before the 30-day challenge. Let's say it like that. And if you don't know what the 30-day challenge is, it's a meal plan for 30 straight days. But anyway, I would go to lunch, a business meeting, whatever, and I wanted to eat healthy.
Yeah.
But I had default foods that I would just order in a pinch or when I was in a hurry,
Yes.
right? Because oftentimes in these business meetings, you get to talking, whatever. Server comes up, asks you what you want to eat. Everyone at the table orders at a quickness because they know what they get there at that restaurant. And you're like, oh, shit, I don't know what to order. So you order your default.
Yeah.
And it's usually something stupid. Like, oftentimes I would do a grilled chicken sandwich with French fries and ranch.
Yeah. Because it's delicious.
It tasted good, right?
It's good.
It was simple and easy.
Yeah.
But then I'd eat it afterwards and go, man, I did it again. Well, tomorrow I'll eat better.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's, again, the comfort aspect of it was instinctive. I knew it was bad.
And it was habit-based.
It was habit-based. Yeah.
So, and this is the point where we really want to hammer on, right? So you could be in a place where in your mind, it's not about, when we say comfortable, that can be misconstrued with comfortable means good, or comfortable means that I'm in a good, comfortable place and I don't want for anything. No. You could be comfortable in a very bad place because you know it's familiar to you.
Right.
There's no changes coming, and change, regardless of even if it's good change, even if the plan that you have are good changes, those changes are going to come with difficulty, because what happens is anytime that you change routine, habit, it comes with difficulty because your body adjusts to it, your mind adjusts to it, right?
Yes.
And you want to go back to the default setting because the default setting, right? It's familiar to you. I understand what I'm going through. So when you initiate something, even if it's something that's positive change, right, it's going to come with pain. If you're going to start an exercise program and you have training here, it's going to hurt. If you're going to go on a calorie deficit diet so that you can drop some pounds, you're going to be hungry. It's not a comfortable place to be.
Right.
I can tell you now that if you can overcome that, you're going to get to the other side. And even in the beginning stages, every time that you overcome that little bit of difficulty, you're going to go, wow, and you're going to find a little bit of purpose, because within hard work and difficulty comes the accomplishment of the fact that you did it.
Oh, yeah.
So there is a benefit to it. And on the opposite side of that spectrum, there's a benefit to having an ice cream cone where you don't need to, and it feels good when you eat it, but then you feel shit for the next week knowing you ate ice cream cone. So like you always say, choose your heart.
Yeah.
But I think the point we're getting at is, if you're at that point that you know you need to make a change, you kind of have a good idea of where the change is. You're internally motivated to do the change, because before discipline it kicks in, motivation is the first thing. So you're motivated to change, but you just kind of delay it, and you keep making excuses internally to delay this change. Why do we do that?
Well, I'll answer that with, I think, and this goes back to the original topic about us being in our own way, is that we don't want to be honest with ourselves.
That's a good. That's a very good name.
Like, we don't. I'm just thinking of a couple of the situations that I'm aware of where sometimes it's easier to, like, if I have a problem, right? Let's just use a rug that has dirt underneath the rug. I know there's dirt under the rug, but I know if I open that thing up, I might find a whole bigger problem that I actually want to deal with. So I'm just not going to open it up.
Or the fact is, even if you open it up, I have to clean it, and that means I have to be accountable for it.
Yeah, but I think the reality is that with men, we have this tendency, and I would say women probably too. I don't really know women well enough to be able to say it's them, but especially relationship-wise, fitness-wise, health-wise, if it's going to be painful to go through the change, right? And so rather than open up the reality that I got to fix this, I just go, well, I know there's something wrong, but I'll just deal with it until it really gets bad. Which
is fair. So you're waiting for it to get extremely bad before I put it in. And sometimes it could be really bad and you don't.
Well, but I think people convince themselves it's not quite that bad.
And I agree. I think that's one aspect of it, right? Yeah. So the other one is, if you're not ready to make a fundamental change, especially a positive one, it means also, to a degree, there's a benefit in not making the change.
Yeah.
Right now, that sounds weird, but you go, well, what benefit is there for me not being healthy? And what benefit is there for... No, there's multiple benefits you could have, right? The one benefit could be is that as long as you don't take action, you're not accountable. Mm-hmm. Right? I can't be accountable for something I haven't done. The second thing is there is a growing, or there has been a growing standpoint in society where we're rewarded for being a victim.
Oh, yeah.
Right, victimhood, right. There's a reward structure for being a victim. And that also comes with a caveat, because, I'm a victim, but am I truly a victim? No, as long as I'm saying there's a group of people that always treat me as a victim.
Yeah.
There's also a standpoint of I wouldn't call it victim. This goes a little bit beyond victim, but there's the reward that you get for saying you're going to do something and having everyone go, oh, that's amazing, you should do it, but never actually taking the steps.
That's a very real thing.
Right, and that's a real thing. I've seen this in person with people where
we see it on social media all the time. You see it
on social media all the time. Is that it's you want to get the it's trying to get the accolades without the work.
I see a lot of people posted on social media. They're tagging themselves at the gym and about their work and the things they're doing. And we train hard, and I've seen these people's workouts, and I go, okay, you're there, you did okay, but you, I think, made it a campaign to say I'm at the gym, so that people accolade that you're at the gym, but you're not really getting the benefit because you're not putting in the work.
But that's a great way to put it, because social media is kind of given those accolades, and unfortunately on social media, people chase likes and people chase comments because it makes them feel good.
It's a dopamine hit.
It's a dopamine hit, right? And like what we do is, what we try and do with social media is I hate, and I'm going to be honest with it, social media is probably the bane of my existence trying to put content up, right? Because it interferes with my flow. But what we try and do is our social media, we're trying to put out clips on this podcast, which is designed to help people. So we want to put out clips and hopefully you can get some information from it, right?
And make you want to watch the whole episode.
And make you watch the episode, and hopefully the episode can help people. The second thing is, when we put up anything to do with training, we're trying to make it educational, right? I don't give a shit about what he said, but let's get an educational aspect. These are educational things around training you can do. Yeah. These are educational things around motivation, right? To keep people engaged so that they can maybe find that purpose in themselves to help themselves, right? Because that's the reason we're doing the podcast. It's trying to help as many people as we can.
I have an example real quick of our social media helping positively influence somebody.
Yeah.
I got a update from a friend yesterday who, he's out west, and he's like, hey, he was doing his weighted vest walk, and he was pulling up to the gym to go hit the weights.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I've seen all your videos, Kev. I don't train as hard as you train, but I'm still getting the weights going. Awesome. And I was like, hey, buddy, that's awesome. I'm really proud of you.
Love that.
Yeah, but he sees our content, and he sees what we're putting out there, and it inspired him.
And this is the purpose of it, right? So that's our take on social media. However, social media can also be on the flip side, right? Mm-hmm. Where it becomes very much about you. It becomes about, as you said, getting that dopamine hit of putting something out. Now, the thing is, there's a portion of the population, right, that don't want to necessarily do the work. And this is a societal thing that has become very prevalent, right? It's I want to get all the accolades and hand claps without actually doing anything of purpose or actually having putting any skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
It's having someone come and tell me how wonderful I am because I just say I'm a woman. Think about that. Just think about the insanity of this, right? Yeah. So I can never be a woman. There's nothing I can do, but if I just say the words, right? And I act a certain way, because if I act like a man, they're going to know I'm like, and then apparently it doesn't count. But I can get society, well, it's not as easy today, but it was a lot easier a year ago.
Yep.
I will get society to clap hands for me for doing nothing except saying I'm a woman.
Right.
How insane is that? So
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's there's an accolade. There's a lot of accolades that you can gain, especially on social media, for saying you're doing something and then never actually doing the work. Right.
Well, I feel like there's a component of social media that's not real. Meaning,
it's a fake presentation.
It's a device in your hands, right? So is it real life? And you can make your social media portray whatever you want it to portray.
It's a reflection of what you want people to see. It's not your real life. It's not your real struggles.
Well, I had somebody do this to me at the gym not that long ago, actually, that see me. We're connected on social media, and to be honest with you, I really didn't know the person. And she's like, "Oh, hey, Kevin," and I was like, "Hey," and I had to process it for a minute and go, "Oh, wait a second, we're connected on social media." So again, I know of her, but in my mind, she's not a real person per se, because I've never met her. I never met her, but I saw her at the gym for the first time and went, "Oh, she is real," right? So it's like. The point is, like, you can make social media story be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And is it reality? Not always.
Well, and I think for some people, right, it's giving them some social credit, that dopamine hit and that feeling like they belong to something by not actually putting in. I always like going back to Dorian Yates, right? So Dorian Yates was a 6-time Mr. Olympia, and he always, whenever he trained, like, no one ever saw him. Like, he disappeared. They used to call him the shadow, right? Because he kind of just emerges out of the shadow the day he has to do the contest, right? And he always said, like, I don't care. I'm not here to show people what I'm doing. I'll show them what I've done. Yeah. Right. And it's, I think it's a very important thing.
I love that.
Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you've done.
Yeah.
Put in the action. And we get rewarded in you can get rewarded for simply just saying you're going to, especially if you make it emotional, right? And this is not to you live your life the way you feel to do, but I think anybody who goes and posts their life on Facebook or any social media trying to explain to people what they're going through, right, and are looking for a sympathy pat in the back, right?
Or justification.
I don't resonate with that, because it's not real. You're looking for justification. Why are you putting it on social media? You shouldn't, right? In the same breath, there's benefits to social media, and I don't have a problem with people posting their wins. Post your wins. I think it's a positive thing for the movement. I think it's great for people to go through, but don't get caught into thinking that because someone says well done, that you've done the work.
Right.
It's not about them.
Right.
You shouldn't require accolades from anybody in order to put your foot forward.
Well, if you go back to our core beliefs, where we say we knock down targets and not goals.
Yeah.
Like it in knocking down targets means you're always moving forward.
Yes.
Right? If you're hitting a goal, that means you're celebrating something.
Yeah.
Now, I do think it's important to celebrate wins, because sometimes you do need to have some just victories, if you will, in your life.
I agree.
But I think there's a component of, like, everyone's always chasing that, and you're not actually doing work. Yeah. And I think I love the expression, or what you just said with Dorian Yates. I take the opinion that actions speak louder than words. Talk is cheap.
Yes.
We can give the lip service, and I was guilty of the lip service for a long time.
Yeah.
In social media, I was guilty of, if you looked at my, at that time when I was on social media, LinkedIn, and then there for a little bit on social, like Instagram or Facebook, I would make it appear like everything was great, hunky-dory in my world.
Yeah.
And look at me, I'm good, I'm accomplished. And I've been successful in life for the most part. But if I really analyzed myself and took accountability, my house was built on a deck of cards.
Well, the thing is, I don't necessarily blame people doing that, right? I mean, we're talking about taking action in regards to purpose in life. But let's just be honest. If you go to the mall, you're showing the same thing, right? It's not, if you invite people over to your house, right? They don't see your house as it is normally. They see your house after you clean it up. Right. You're presenting the best version of yourself, which is, I don't have a problem with that. Like, present your best version, okay? But don't present your best version because you're expecting a pat in the back. Right. Don't post things because you want people to tell you how wonderful you are.
Right.
if you're posting something, post something, celebrate a win. I'm good with that. Celebrate a win. I want you to celebrate your wins. If you went to the gym today and this is your 10th day in a row and you feel like you're accomplished on it, post that shit online and tell everybody, hey, look what I've done. Take the day, take all those, but remain humble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remain focused. Remain zoned in on why you started. You're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you.
Yeah, and I feel like not that I don't want to take the episode down this path, but like I think if you're posting on social media, stuff like that, like don't come at it from a lecturing perspective. Just share your win and say, look, this is what I did, and this would help me be successful. Not you need to do this, because there's a difference, right? I think there's humble is a good word to use, because
you got to remain humble. Like you cannot. This is where a guy like Joey Swole, I love what he does, right? So he calls out people who are just trying to share on other people for likes online,
right?
And you shouldn't. What you're trying to do is, if you're putting something out there, put out your perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go on, right, and I've said this before, is if I go on and say, I'm on a carnivore diet, this is how I run it. It works for me, right? I'm not saying it's going to work for you. I'm simply telling you, I'm celebrating my win and the fact that this works for me. I want you to find what works for you.
Yeah.
All right, that's how everyone should see it. But if I'm going online and I'm going, carnivore diet's the only way. If you do anything else, you're stupid. Come on, man. Like, don't do that. Like, let people be people. Give good information. Allow people to make discernment for themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
I want people. My biggest hope for people, right? Anybody, because I want to help as many people as I can. I hope you use this to go down a path of finding for yourself a route that works best for you.
Yeah.
How do you find that route? You gather information. You listen to podcasts like ours.
Yeah.
You go and find other people who do similar things. You find people who have similar situations to you, whether it be health conditions, certain body conditions, mental states. It doesn't matter. And then you take all that information. You start learning.
Well, you bring up a good point, right? And going back to our original message of get out of your way. If you're pursuing growth, you're not going to be in your way. You can to a certain degree, but for the most part, if you're just simply trying to be a better version of yourself in everything that you're doing, you're going to be better.
You'll always be moving forward.
One of the situations that I know about, and I'm not out of protection, I'm not going to say any details other than the person that shared with me what's going on in the situation with these other people. I look at it from the outsider viewpoint and say, it will not end well, in my opinion, as it states right now, because one of the persons that's the problem is doing nothing to get out of his own way.
Yes.
Because he's not doing anything to grow.
Yes.
And if you're not doing anything to grow, it causes strain in your relationships, in your life as a whole.
Yes.
Whether you want to realize it or not. And until you take some accountability, until you look yourself in the mirror, and I'll stop talking around to this point. I think when it comes to relationships with men, husbands and wives, like men in relationships, and this is my own story and example, but we don't always look at it from a place of like, what can I do to make their lives better?
Yeah.
We look at it from a selfish perspective.
Yes.
And to me, that's me getting in my way of a productive marriage, right?
Yeah.
Well, that bleeds into fitness, that bleeds into other things, right? It bleeds into so much because we look at everything as it's self-serving, what's in it for me.
Yes.
We subconsciously or consciously weigh the pros and cons of things into fitness point, right? If I'm out of shape, there's pain associated with getting in shape.
Yeah.
If I'm not following a meal plan, there's sacrifice and pain associated with making meal preps, or like now it's instinctive, but in the beginning it's not, because you have to make sacrifices to choose the right food, to learn what foods to eat, to meal prep, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So then again, I say you're getting in your own way, but if you just try to be better, that's on the path of what you need to do to get out of your way.
It's when you're in that space, right? It's a mindset shift. It's a switch on the wall. It's an explosion in your brain, right? But generally, I find once you get over taking that first step, right? And you have to be careful, because you could take the first step and then kind of stop, and you could take the next step. What you have to do is you have to consistently take a step,
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't have to be all the steps at once. Like when I speak to a lot of people, I'm like, you don't have to do everything at once. Yeah. Sometimes I'll tell you don't do everything at once, because if you do everything at once, it can become overwhelming, right? And you've taken on too much. You need to take bite-sized pieces here, right? If you take on too much, you can't chew that down, and then all of a sudden you find that you're overwhelmed, and the minute you feel overwhelmed, it's like this and you're back where you were.
Yeah.
So take a step, right? We always talk about fitness as the gateway. Start with walking, right? If you've never trained before and this is the first time, start with walking every day and be consistent on that, and do that for a week. And once you feel a little bit and you're comfortable and you feel like this is part of your routine, add in something more. Weighted vest, a couple of push-ups, couple of squats, right? 100%. Don't change your entire diet. Just cut out sugar. Yeah. Just cut out sugar. Just cut out adding sugar to everything. Then once you've done that, cut out processed foods. Add in some protein. Like, you don't have to start lean. And then other guys, you may be further along in the process where you're comfortable doing those things. Add on more. But never stop adding. Never stop stepping.
I remember when I did my 30-day plan last year, which again, it turned into like 42 or 45 days. I did a couple weeks of preparing for it. Yes. I was already following a meal plan to a certain degree. But when I got the meal plan, I looked at it. I was like, okay, I know there's going to be some challenges with this. There's things that I'm going to struggle with. Let me start cutting. Let me get there by cutting this out. Yeah. And I think for me, it was like cutting out like a protein shake, or like there was some kind of snack that I was having in the afternoons I had to cut out. So it was like, all right, let me cut that. Let me do that for 2 weeks. Yeah. And then the 30 days started, and I was like, all right, now let me just do one meal at a time, one meal at a time, one meal at a time. And before I knew it, I was on like 15 days.
I mean, you be in the present, because you do in the present what you can. You don't worry about tomorrow. You don't worry about yesterday.
Yeah.
If you messed up, get back on the horse. But the point being is, you have to keep taking cognizant steps. Now, if you're procrastinating on these steps, if you're holding yourself back, you have to have that introspective conversation with yourself and ask why. And there could be multiple reasons. It's fear of the pain to come. It's what if I fail? A lot of times is don't tell people what you're going to do. Like I keep a lot of, if I'm planning to do something, I rarely tell people what I'm going to do, right? Because I feel if I tell people, I'm kind of setting myself up for failure. Because why am I telling people? Because they're not accountable for what I'm going to do.
Well, I think in the past I've done something like that, where I would like post that, I'm going to do some kind of challenge, and then I didn't do it. And in my mind, it was, I'm putting it out there so that it holds me accountable.
Yeah, that's the wrong way to go.
But it is the wrong way.
It's not the way to go. The thing is, stop trying to make everyone accountable for your results.
Right.
Make yourself accountable. And what I tend to do is, like, I don't tell people what I'm going to do. Right. The reason I don't tell people is because I've come to the mindset that if I tell them, what happens is the minute I make someone else accountable and I'm not accountable, it's going to fail. Yeah. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
When you make yourself accountable and you go, well, I'm not going to tell anybody, I'm just going to do it. And you just go. You don't say a word about it. And then you put in the work. You are the only person that you are accountable to. You are the only person you should be accountable to.
Well, and I think the important message with that is, we talk so much about extreme ownership and accountability to self, right? If you do it this way and you just keep your head down, focus on, like we talk about daily habits, like your, whatever those might be identified that you've done, and you just put the work in. Because the reality is, like, this journey of life that we're all on, that none of us have, like, the answers to, that, like, we want to feel that we're finding answers to. We're all trying to figure it out. And what I've come to uncover through all this is that the journey that we're on, it's the work. Yeah. The work is the key. That's the part that you have to embrace.
It's the only thing that changes everything, because you can, if you're posting consistently and daily, and you're expecting a certain outlay. So let's come up with a fictitious example, right? So I'm an overweight guy. I've decided to go to the gym, right? And I'll give a couple of examples where I've seen this, right? So I'm an overweight guy. I'm going to go to the gym. So I post, I'm grossly overweight. I'm in the gym. I'm doing the work, right? And I do it tomorrow and do the next. Now what happens is, I'm doing that because I'm expecting everybody to tell me how well I'm doing. Now on day one, it looks great online, and I get 1,000 people going, yeah, you look amazing, right? And then I do it day 2. By the time I get to day 15, I'm posting the same content consistently, right? And the people don't see the difference, because if you're going to make a difference in weight, it's going to take months.
Yes.
Months until sometimes years, right? So no one's going to see a difference in a small amount. Now, let's say 1,000 likes and 1,000 comments become 10.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, no one's telling me I'm doing well. I don't want to do this anymore, right? Because I'm not holding myself accountable. I'm holding myself accountable to everyone else's reaction to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then you're losing the reasoning, which means you never had the right reasoning to begin with.
Yeah.
You should go and do those things. Now, if you want to document it. But if I was in that situation, I would document it for 6 months and only post it once I've lost.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to do that, that's fine.
I mean, I have all kinds of pictures from my over 2 years worth of progress pictures and just the journey, if you will, that I've never posted or shared. I don't know if I ever will, maybe one day, but I just haven't because.
And it's fine. And why? Right. And the thing is, there's the point that I'm getting to initially, and back to the reason that we're doing this particular episode, is you cannot want to move forward if you do not take a step. And we're not talking about taking a step being completely not sure about how I'm going to take a step. That's a different ballgame. There's a lot of work you got to do. I'm talking about you know what you have to do. You know where you are. You know what the steps are. You know what you have to do, how to do it, where to go. Now what happens is now you've got to take the step. Now the step's going to come with pain. What do I mean by pain? It's going to be a change in your routine. You're going to have to adapt your routine, your normal everyday routine, which means it's going to disrupt life.
Yeah.
You then are going to do that for an uncomfortable point of time, which is usually about 14 days, and then you're going to figure out your locks. You're going to figure out your changes. Once you figure out your changes, it becomes a little bit easier, right? I always like the saying is, anything that's hard is only hard until you make it easy. It's only difficult until I figure it out and it becomes easy. Yeah. Right. And once it becomes easy, and when I say easy, it's not easy, it's just I can manage it and I can drive through and I know what's coming. Yeah. When you get that, then you just find the next one and the next one and the next one.
I'll use baseball as an example. Sam always would watch, she'll still do this. She'll watch in amazement of the major league players. And she'll say, they make it look like I could do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, but you got to understand, and this is like, it's hard at the beginning for everybody, but they've done it so many times.
Repetition.
100%. That they're easy to, like, what appears to be easy to you is in fact really, really hard.
Yes.
But it's because they've done it so much.
Because you're only getting a sliver of a view of a point in time versus seeing this person's entire journey.
And honestly, even in a major league game, what a lot of people don't see, and I'm sure this is every sport, is all the preparation, even the day of the game, that they're doing to get warmed up, to get ready to perform at that level.
Yeah, and that's the extreme when we're talking about sports. Now, how do you apply this to day? Is you can give people an insight on your journey, right? You can walk into the gym and you can see someone in shape and go, I want to be like that, and it looks easy for him. Yeah. You don't realize how much effort he put in to get there.
Yeah.
Do not ever dismiss that. That's why we always say is don't judge people when you see them. You don't know what they went through. You don't know how they went. And this goes for everybody, right? Even if you're someone who's struggling with obesity, you went through some trauma it didn't happen overnight.
No, it didn't.
Right? No, you don't pack on muscle overnight. You don't get fat overnight. You had to go through a whole bunch of things to get there.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, as much as those are bad habits, they're probably bred from trauma and all sorts of places. And if you know and you realize that you have to get somewhere, those changes are going to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
Those nuances are not going to be something that you're going to adapt to immediately. They're going to be difficult. Right. But in that difficulty comes purpose.
Right.
When you overcome something that is difficult, something that is challenging, right? If you're hungry and you're on a meal plan and I'm hungry and I walk into a store and I see candy on the shelf or I see meat or something I shouldn't eat, right? And my body's saying, I just want to have some of that. Mm-hmm. And you hold that feeling off for 20 minutes. Okay. I guarantee when you're done, you're wow, I did that. Yeah. You're going to literally smile at yourself, I did that.
I didn't cave.
Right. On the flip side, if you did cave and you had those sweets, right, you're going to eat them. They're going to taste fucking fantastic. I'm not going to lie to you. They're going to taste great.
Yep.
And as soon as you've eaten that last one, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to beat yourself up for an extended period of time, or you're going to convince yourself it was okay. Mm-hmm. And both are wrong. Yeah. Both are wrong. It wasn't okay.
I agree.
There is a innate benefit that you receive from doing something that is difficult and challenging, and there is a end point. It usually comes at the end, right? When you get to that end point, there's a sense of purpose and accomplishment that nothing that gives short-term quick bites will ever fix.
Yeah.
Right? It is worth more than everything. And you have to zone in on that, right? Because you should try and do something that is challenging for you every single day.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And it doesn't have to be physical. It doesn't have to be nutrition related. It could be emotional. It could be, it could be driving in traffic and seeing someone have road rage and flip you off and just calming down, going, it's okay. I don't know what they went through today.
Yeah.
Right. Don't make it about you. Go, that person's having a bad day. Leave it right there and turn off and leave it. Let it go. Right.
Well, we live in Florida. Like, self-control is what comes to mind when you say this. And just last week, I actually drove by the scene. Somebody's in jail now because of a road rage incident because they lost self-control. They ended up shooting somebody, and there was a shootout, whatever, because they lost self-control. Well, self-control also is in the form, and this is something I struggle with, this scrolling excessively.
Yeah.
Right? You're, as much, these phones are great, but like we are at an age where we knew the world before phones like this.
So we know what it was like.
We know what it was like, and I just think we're so easily distracted now. And these phones are addictive. They've identified that they're addictive, right?
And they push the addiction factor.
And they do. And I think the one thing I'm really trying to focus on personally is like, hey, eliminate distractions from my day.
Yeah.
Right? And I still struggle with it because I remember specifically yesterday, there was a text message I needed to reference. Like, it was an email that I was sending, and I needed to reference something in the text message, right? So I get in there, and I get an alert from my wife or a friend, whoever, I don't remember. Mm-hmm. So I go read that message. And then it's a link to a video or something.
Then you watch the video.
So I watch the video, and then I flip up.
And then you're scrolling.
And then I'm scrolling.
And then you go, God, this is not why I came here.
What was I doing?
Yeah.
So then I go back to the computer. I get, that email. That's right. And then I get in the email, and then it fucking happens again.
Yeah.
I get into my phone. I get an alert. I go to the alert, and the alert was like, the only alerts I get is text messages, right? And then I get distracted, and I respond to the text, and I set it down, and I go, what was I doing? And I go back to the email. Yeah. And that's the part, like, for me, it's like I'm trying to be intentional about staying focused on what's in front of me with that task, right? Because self-control in this world that we live in is really hard.
I agree with you. We are overstimulated, right? Especially with electronics. Yeah. But I think the self-control thing is not a new thing. I think it's just the nuances have changed, and
it's different things.
If you think of it this way, right? So, and if you're old enough to remember, is before you had Spotify in your car or sat-nav radio, before then you would have CDs, right?
The big books.
And you'd have this big book of CDs and you'd flip through them. Right now you imagine right now is it's terrible. You scroll and you're driving and you're reading, you're scrolling while you're driving, and you shouldn't, paying attention to the road. Well, back then, what you would be, it goes even worse, right? Is you'd be packing through a case of CDs in a manual car with a cigarette in your mouth if you smoked, right? And so distraction. It's just the mechanisms are different, right? And regardless of what they are, you are the self-control.
That's right.
You are the person that has the potential to go yes or no.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't mean that you have to, don't beat yourself up. But the point being is, you have to start taking responsibility, and you have to start looking for growth on a daily basis in everything. Right? And when I say everything, it's not just one thing, because we can get overly focused into physical, or overly focused into nutrition, or overly focused into mindset. Meditation. And I meet a lot of people that are very good in one balance sense. Right? And I think it's very important to find your balance levels.
Yeah.
So the ones that you don't fluctuate towards, right? The ones that don't come naturally, the ones that don't come easier, are the ones that are the one you should put the most effort into, right? Like, if going to the gym is like, for us, it's like breathing. It's just a thing I do. It's like having breakfast every day, right? So it's like eating a meal. It's just something I will do, and I will do it for the rest of my life till the day I die. Okay, but it comes easier to me. Things like, mindset, meditation, those things are not as familiar to me because I've been doing this since I was 16.
Yeah.
Those things are a little bit different, so I have to put a little bit more effort in to make sure I balance them out.
Yeah.
And I often find myself, I forgot, I need to get back into that. So you've got to, it's a constant reassessment. It's a constant realignment. It's a constant checking and goalpost alignment. You have to find that every single day I've got to find somewhere that I need to look for growth.
Yeah, I agree.
And the most uncomfortable places you're going to find looking for growth is when it comes to emotions.
Yeah.
when it comes to relationships, the people most important to you, difficult conversations, for men especially, it's going to be in regulating, especially with men, regulating rage and anger. Right? Because that's our default setting. We always go back to anger and rage. And finding ways to regulate that default setting so you don't just fall back into that line. You don't become angry every time something's pushed against you, because that's a weakness. Right.
Well, in men, I think when it comes to the rage and the anger side, what happens is it bleeds into our homes by not giving our spouses the ability to give us some feedback, because we don't want criticism, because we get criticism every day at work or in business in general. And then if you're like, there's athletes that, I mean, my story of being a former athlete, military guy, corporate guy, feedback constantly and harsh always. So you get like criticism at every corner, and then you get it at home and you get defensive towards it, right?
Well,
so you have to overcome those things.
I think even further than that is, I think criticism hits you hardest when everything else is really good, right? So it's not even if you're grabbing it in other places. Let's say you've got the scenario where money's coming in, you're doing well in business.
Yeah,
right.
That's true too.
You're regulating exercise is great. Everything else in your life is good, and then you get home, your wife goes, you don't spend enough time, and we have a problem.
Yeah,
right? I'm not feeling this. I need more emotional connection.
What are you talking about? Look what all I do.
Yeah. So now your mind goes, but everything else is good. How is this not good? You need to overcome that initial reaction, because that's the defensive reaction, because you're going, but everything else is good. So why is this not good? It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and it's really hard to be like in that area, especially when we say get out of your own way. Well, like us as men, like we don't really want to address what's wrong in our relationships.
No.
And we just ignore it.
Yeah, or we want to assume, well, everything else is good, so this should be good, so don't bring it up. But reality is, if this is the person you've chosen to spend your life with, if this is your significant other, right? You chose them for a reason. Like you should give them everything. Like they are the reason you're doing this. So you need to you said constantly, you can't go. You need to give them the best of yourself, not the worst, right? So you got to put that effort in, and this is part and parcel about that procrastination you're getting, because this is painful.
Yes.
Right? It's difficult to take criticism when you think you've done everything right. And by all accounts, note, you might have in your mind you're doing everything right. But here's the kicker, right? I might be doing everything I believe that is right.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that someone else has a feeling that may not resonate with how I feel like I'm conducting myself.
Yeah.
I might have done something unintentionally that might have hurt my spouse or hurt someone close to me.
Yeah. And I think men do it more unintentionally than they do intentionally.
Right, it's mostly unintentional. And also knowing that my spouse is so in tune with me that if she's coming to me, she knows I didn't do it intentionally. Right. So I need to let that go first. I know she knows what I did was not unintentional, because if it was intentional, she'd probably be more pissed at me.
Oh, for sure.
And the fact that she's coming to me to discuss it. So now I have a responsibility and an accountability to regulate my emotions, which take effort.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy. Anger is the easiest thing to trigger into. It's holding back that and listening and being open to the conversation. That is part of growth.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something I work on every single day. So do you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the point I'm making is, you're looking for a portion of growth on a daily basis. You have to do something difficult, right? You have to accomplish something difficult. You might fail and you do it again, but you have to try and accomplish something difficult. You've got to consistently grow. You never stop. Well, it's something you have to chase.
Can I just say something about anger? If anger is your response mechanism, there's something broken internally.
Yeah.
So if your response with any feedback or criticism is anger, you need to do some deep diving.
Yeah.
And you need to step back and go, why did I act that way? What caused that behavior? That behavior was wrong. Whether I think I'm justified or not, I should not have given my spouse or my children anger. What is broken?
Yeah, and why?
Why is it like that? And then ultimately, what do I need to do to fix it?
And let's be honest. If you have that conversation with yourself, you know the answer, right? The thing is,
I don't know if I agree with you on that, because I didn't know the answer. At first, I didn't. When I started to dive into it, it became clear.
But that's what I mean, is when you start doing introspection and you start looking into yourself and asking the questions, I'm not saying the answer is going to...
But it took me guidance to figure it out.
Yeah, but you figured out the guidance. The point I'm saying is the answer was in you. No one else could give you the answer, right?
Yeah,
you have to find it, but in finding it, the mechanism... is different for everybody, but you had to look for it. You had to be willing to open to receive it.
Is seeking growth, right? And so, like, again, going back to if your response is anger, because I remember my situations. I'll share the brief, condensed version of the pull pump story where installed a pull pump that went completely horrible. Wife makes a reference to it. I snap, blow up. And after the exchange, after steamrolling her, and actually my daughter was there too, I found myself like going, what did you just do?
Yeah.
What the hell, dude?
Yeah.
Like, why? And so, like, that was like the moment of time where I was just like,
I need to change something.
I need to change. Like, what the fuck did I just do?
Yeah.
I just steamrolled my wife and daughter over a pull pump.
Something that's not important. And it wasn't about the pump.
No.
Right? It's trauma. It's carrying it. And what's the point of all of this? Is you who is procrastinating, holding yourself back, getting in your own way, right? Part of getting out of your own way is realizing that you're not perfect, right? You're an imperfect being trying to be the best version of yourself, and you have to start taking steps. And these steps are going to be uncomfortable. Like nutrition and training could be the easiest step for you.
Yes,
right. The hardest step for me was emotion, 100%, because I've got to deal with something that generally makes me uncomfortable, and I've got to do it in a way where and again, because of the time frame we were raised in, emotion is a bad thing. Don't show emotion. Don't be a pussy. You got to
suck it up.
You got to. I had to really come to terms with the fact that emotion is not a bad thing. It's a very big innate part of us, and we have to find that regulation, and especially when it comes to dealing with the person most important in your life.
Absolutely.
And what you want to try and do is you want to try and look at this on a daily basis. And again, we always talk about being in the present. Take one step today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about what's happened. Don't worry about if you failed in the past. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what tomorrow brings. It matters what you do today, right? So if you have a plan, just follow step one, right? And then worry about step two when step two is necessary.
Yeah.
And then if step one is every day I do this, A, B, or C, I go for a walk, I go to the gym, I do whatever it is. Take step one today, and tomorrow when it's time for step day, be in the present and make that step happen.
Yeah.
And then if your routine and your daily routine is, if you have kids that you have to take care of in the morning, if you have a job that takes you all over driving, find smart ways to work around your schedule.
Yes.
Find ways to integrate everything in, but take a step.
Well, I think a big one is, I remember back with the corporate world, right? And I would say, when do I train during that time?
Yeah.
Because I would literally sometimes have to be there at 5 a.m. and I'd be there till 6 o'clock at night. Well, just about every job out there takes a lunch break, right? So to your point, and if you're a road warrior who's on the road all the time, or if your job's just busy, if you pack a gym bag and you pack your meals, instead of going to sit at a restaurant for lunch with the peers or colleagues, go hit a Crunch Fitness somewhere because they have clubs all over the place.
Yeah.
Join their top membership for $30 and get access to any club you want.
There you go.
And you can train during that period of time. You can get a good workout in 45 minutes by yourself.
Dude, if you do the German giant sets with that, you're going to go to work in 10 minutes.
That's right.
Right, just find the mechanism. And what I'm saying is, how do you find the mechanism? You have to gather information. Right? This is also an important part about taking that first step, because sometimes you know what you have to do, you know how to do it, but you're not 100% sure of how you're going to apply these steps.
Yeah.
Right? Because your life is innately different to everybody else's. Your experience, your perspectives are different.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is, what I tend to do is, and this has worked very well for me, and I think you go to the same path, is I try and absorb as much information from as many places and take those aspects of that work within my framework.
Absolutely.
And take that and then apply it. And sometimes I'll take something, I'll apply it, and it might work, but doesn't really work 100%. I might have to adapt it. The point is, you can't just rely on a plan from someone and a guide.
Agreed.
A plan and a guide is innately designed to give you the ability to have a starting point and then build on top of it with your own experiences.
Well, and to further your point, I am where I am today because I pursued growth, right? And it was all different things, all kinds of places that I pulled knowledge from. I was in search of knowledge.
Nice.
I would read books. I would listen to podcasts. I would go to therapy. I would do hypnosis therapy. I would learn from you. I would learn from others' failures and experiences. I would watch the world around me. I was in pursuit of knowledge and understanding, and whenever you do that, it's impossible not to grow because you're just trying to be a better version.
This is you've hit on the nail on the head of what is the most important thing. The most important thing is part of never stop growing is to never stop learning.
Yes.
Right. I cannot explain how important this is. Right.
Yeah.
Growth isn't just action. It's not just going to the gym. It's not just following the line of doing meditations, breath work, affirmations, doing spiritual work, meditating, getting yourself closer to the universe, God. It really is about understanding why and consistently readjusting why you do it, which means that if you stop learning, you die.
That's right.
Learning is the reason you grow, because there's knowledge that comes from that, and that's the most important thing. So that first step you're taking is, you might think you have all this knowledge. I can tell you now, after doing this particular journey for now almost 7 years, I can tell you now that doing weight training and training for the past 30 years, I still don't have it all figured out. Right. I'm consistently learning. I'm consistently applying. I mean, you've trained with me for over a year now, right? How many times do I come and go, hey, I saw this new thing, let's try it. Yeah. Right. I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. And I try and grab as much information from multiple people. There was a workout we did the other day, the Zergo carry with the axle bar, right? Yeah. The guy who did it, right, was I wouldn't call him an influencer, but it's someone online who, he's not in great shape, right? The guy's overweight, but he's training on, and I was watching him doing this, like, that's a kick-ass exercise. Like, well done. And I checked the exercise, like, okay, I'm going to do that. It wasn't who he was. It was the fact that he applied something I had never seen before. So what's the point? Yeah. Learning isn't just learning from people that you believe are higher than you or better than you. Yeah. Everybody has a lesson for you. Yeah. You have to become an expert at devouring information and then picking apart the points of that information that apply to you, so you can apply it to your life, and it can enrich your life and your growth.
I think a point I'll make on the kind of, I guess the conclusion here would be, along this journey, right, along this path, as you're making changes and you're going in a positive direction, you're going to have small setbacks. Yes. You're going to have times of, like, messed up or whatever. And again, accountability, owning it, acknowledging it, and then adjusting and moving forward. Yes. And that could be, in my situation, that could be in the form of anger with your spouse, right? Where something sets you off because there's still an underlying, like, recovery process, right, where you're not giving as much, and you recognize, okay, I probably shouldn't handle it that way, and then you own it. Yep. You acknowledge it, and I think it gets way better, way more understanding and reception from the other. Yeah. And also know, like, just because you all of a sudden recognize that, hey, I've changed, everything's changed, they're not quite sure yet. So it's going to take your loved ones around you some time to recognize the change is real. It's not going away. Because you've not. And if this was my story, I've attempted change in the past, but it was short-lived, and it didn't stick around, and I would go right back to my old ways.
Well, this goes back to what I said in the beginning, is it's not about what you say you're going to do, it's about what you do. That's right. So you can say you're going to change. Does the change stick? Is it permanent? Do you show that? Or do you not say a word, make significant change, make sure it's consistent, run that consistency through, and I guarantee you everything changes around you. Take the steps, right? Don't get in your own way. I think in conclusion to this episode is, you are accountable to you. Yeah. Don't make anyone accountable for your goals. Take as much information in as possible. Learn from as many people as you can, and take that information. Become an expert on learning.
Right. You told me in the beginning, let's call it, of my training with you, when it came to vitamins and supplements and stuff, and I looked at Sam and was like, hey, will you, I think, order it, or she didn't order it, so I didn't take it or whatever, and you stopped it and you were like, no, like, you're responsible for that.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with her.
And so fast forward over a year later, I take way more shit than she does, because, and I'm like, yep, I ordered that, yep, that came in. She's like, wow, how much stuff do you take? Because, I was reading, this is like something that helps me for this. Like, for me, like prostate health and like blood flow and circulation and all the, like, the men's health stuff. I read all kinds of shit now because I'm like, ooh, I can take that. That'll help me. But I got it.
I'm going to try.
I'm taking ownership and accountability of what I put in my body and what I'm doing. No one else is responsible. Yep. Only me.
And you, again, you're putting it in your body. Know what you're putting in your body, right? Yeah. Is the amount of times, I mean, I was guilty of this, is I remember the times when you go, I need protein, so you go buy a protein bar. read the label. God damn it, please read the label, because
It tastes good for a reason.
if there's one word on there that you cannot pronounce, you probably shouldn't put it in your mouth. Right? So, it's like I don't touch those things anymore, because I'd flip over the label and go, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be cognizant of what you're doing. This is part of accountability. You can't just follow a plan and not take accountability for what the plan is and understanding it. Yes, initially, if you're new to this, it's good to have a guide, right? We're going to have a 12-week program that's going to be available to people. You're accountable for it, but it's going to start you on the journey. But what I want for everybody, I'm sure the same thing you want, is when you follow our program, what I want you to have a fundamental understanding of training, and then I want you to build on it. And I want you to find the ways of adapting that training that best works for you.
Yes.
That gives you the results you want.
Definitely.
And then what I want you to do is I want you to follow Kevin's state on mindsets and how to build a strong mental state. And I want you to take that mental state and I want you to continuously build on it. And then I want you to figure out the mechanisms that make you the best version of you.
That's right.
His is a baseline. And everything else we throw in this program is to get you started. But eventually what we want is we want you to be the expert in your line and go,
That's right.
I have found my program, my lifestyle that works for me. You don't eat the exact same way I do. You don't, right? Your training is different when we're not training together, right? There's slight variation, because what you're doing is you're adapting it to you. When we train together, we adapt to each other. The point being is you have your own plan.
Yeah.
What you've done with your plan is part of your journey before you met me. Some of it is part of when you met me. But again, what I'm doing is I'm trying to give you as much as possible, so that you can go, I know what I need to do for me.
Right. And to be honest with you, like I got tools from you, right? So then I learned, and I dove in even further and developed my own set of skills.
And that's what you want.
That's what the message is, right? It's the whole idea is that we're giving you tools, and now you dive in.
Yes. So the most important thing to take from this is don't get in your own way. Don't procrastinate on starting. Start. Take one step. Take another step. Take a second step. Just keep going. It doesn't matter how far the jumps are every day. It matters that you moved. I don't care if it's an inch or a mile. Just move. If you keep moving, you cannot fail.
Yep. And my final thought here is the 12-week program is alive and well. We're going to be putting together videos for that, and be on the lookout for that. It'll change everything. And I'm excited about that program. Jason and I have worked really hard to put that thing together, and we've got it to fruition. So look for that soon.
Awesome. Let's leave it right there. Thank you.
Thank you.